You might be in a job you don't like or a business you don't like. And to change it, it feels so overwhelming. You feel like you're in so deep that there's no changing it. But I'm here to tell you that this is your life. You only get one. You got to do what it takes to make yourself happy in the work that you're doing every day. And I'm here to help you with that, to help you figure out the steps through this podcast. Now, in this episode, I'm going to be sharing with you my journey into becoming a full-time YouTuber. And I hope it helps you get the gumption you need to pursue your true life dreams as well. Welcome to the In the Company of My Kids podcast. I'm Nikki Lewis. If you have kids and you have an entrepreneurial drive, this podcast is where you'll learn how to make money, kids and parents together as partners through a YouTube channel business. Now, a lot of people have asked me for this episode to just tell my story, my business background, and that kind of thing. And I got to be honest with you. I think I had some imposter syndrome with putting this episode out. I don't know why, it just creeps up on you sometimes and you think nobody wants to hear your story. People just want to get the help that they need for what they have going on. But I'm hoping that, what me telling you my story, maybe you can resonate with it. Maybe you can understand how I came to be doing this YouTube business full time and why I love it so much, and see for yourself that even though you go through a lot of things, you can still find that thing that you love and actually make a good living from it. And it could lead to so many other good things. So I'm just going to share my story with you and set the imposter syndrome aside. And here we go. All right. So, my story begins with when I was a kid, obviously, but I want to just tell you a bit about when I was a kid. My parents hated their jobs. Yeah, so my parents hated their jobs. I remember my mom coming home and, there were never any good stories about her work day. Something you spend the majority of your day on. You come home, you have nothing to say about it, but, you're glad to be done with it for the day, or you can't wait for the weekend, or you can't wait for vacation. So I never recall her having a job that she really loved. My parents were divorced, so I lived with my mom, even though my dad and I were and still are very close. But yeah, so I just remember that experience. And same thing with my dad. I don't really remember him just enjoying the work that he did. I mean, he is a computer programmer. He's into computers. He does a lot of work with computer systems and that kind of thing. And that he enjoyed. That was a passion of his. But just going to a job, I remember he was always looking for a way to work from home. And he was able to do that later in his career. But yeah, that's how it started. And I'm sure it's probably the same for most families. The majority of the world do work that they don't have a passion for, but they do it because they have to take care of their family, and either they don't know another way to make money doing the thing that they love, or they've trained in something for so long that they don't want to change it. So for whatever reason, that was my experience. And I just remember in the back of my head, probably not subconsciously thinking, this is going to be my future. This is what I have to look forward to, going somewhere every single day for the rest of my life that I hate doing. And so because of that, without even consciously thinking of it, I started a business when I was around 8 years old. My uncles had neighborhood stores, grocery stores, and I loved making crispy treats, Rice Krispie treats, and I would make them and my uncles let me sell the little squares of Rice Krispie treats in their stores. So that was my first business and I loved it. I loved the satisfaction of making something that I loved, giving it to other people, and they loving it as well. So that was my first little foray into business. Hey, if you are getting value out of this podcast, I have to ask you to click subscribe and click that bell to turn on notifications. That way you'll know when I release new information for you, and it'll really help me out. And if you really like what you're hearing, click that share button and share it with a friend. From there, it just kept spiraling. I could not get enough of it. I then started a babysitter's club. I was reading the book, The Babysitter's Club. Loved that series so much. And, I said to myself, I should start a babysitter's club. So that's what I did. I started a babysitter's club in my neighborhood, got my friends together, and I was like, okay, you guys are going to go door to door and ask if we can babysit the kids. Now, I didn't plan on babysitting. I didn't want to do that, but I was okay with sending other people out to do it. So anyway, we started doing that, and yeah, we were like 10, so the neighborhood was like, no, you're a baby, so you're not babysitting my kid. So it was a wrap on that business. And from there, it just continued. I never put the label on it of me being a business owner, but that's what I was doing all through, my youth. And then I started getting into things like writing. I really love to write. So I would start writing, but I never imagined that I could make money off of writing because that's what the world said, right? I never imagined I could just be a professional writer. Even though I love to do it, even though eventually, I went to school and I started doing some in college, I kind of had that passion, but let it go. And then blogging popped up. And I was like, I cannot believe all these people are making money writing. I could have done that. I could have been doing this all along. That would have been a great business for me. But I let the world tell me, no, that's not a legitimate career. Don't pursue that. So that lesson taught me, do what you love and believe in it, because opportunities are always popping up when you're committed to something. So then I went on to high school and, around the age of 13, met my husband, 9th grade year of high school, Trey. He and I became like best friends. We had a whole crew of best friends that we all hung out together and did everything together, even from middle school through high school with them, but met the hubby in high school. And so we didn't really seriously start dating until I went to college. So I left to go to Atlanta for college and then had a revelation that I was meant to be with Trey. So we kind of had playfully dated through high school, but now we were ready to get serious. So we started dating seriously first year of college. And even then he started some businesses. So he got into network marketing. So I joined him and I was like, okay, let's do this. Let's rock this thing. So we started a network marketing. We got into that business and we had a large organization, large downline. So that was growing. Eventually I started selling cookies. I'm just telling you, my business experience, all these different things I did. I would make cookies and I would sell them to the neighborhood or sell them to people's jobs. I started a lunch catering company where I would cook just different types of lunch meals that people couldn't traditionally get going out at the time. And I would box it up and take it to people's jobs and sell lunch. I did lunch catering. And so all this was going on. And eventually Trey and I got married. I was 25. He was 25 at the time, both of us. And, we had graduated college. We started working, even though I had these side businesses doing these different things. We both started our careers. So he was working, I was working. And I remember about a year into the marriage, I came home one day crying. And I was just really in tears and upset. Why do you think that was? It was because I hated my job. I was turning into my mother. I was like, I am done. I can't do this anymore. I can't do this going to this career that I hate, And I had tried a lot of different jobs. I had worked in a lot of different industries. And I hated them all. None of them were a passion of mine. So I knew I really had to focus on what was a passion. And honestly, business was a passion. And it wasn't even one particular business. It was just being able to be in control of my own time in general and do what I wanted to do in general. So that was my passion. And so after long talks with the hubby, lots of hesitation, like, what are you doing? We just got married. We got all these bills to pay. We just bought a new house. What are you talking about? I said, for me to have peace of mind and for us to grow in this marriage, give me some time to do my own thing, right? I got to do a business. I got to pursue my own thing. So hubby was convinced. I was convinced. And I actually had a retirement party. I invited friends out to a restaurant and I had a big retirement party in my 20s because I was committed to entrepreneurship. And I was saying, I'm retiring from traditional work and I am really committing to entrepreneurship. And I have not looked back since. I have not worked a traditional job since then. I have been a business owner since then. So that's what I did. And at that point, we got into real estate investing. So started a real estate investing business. Trey was still working his job full time, but we started buying properties, learning about it, and then purchasing properties that we would flip. So we would rehab them and we would either sell them or keep them to rent, or we even have rooming houses. So real estate investing became my full-time business. I was running it alone. Not running it alone, but I was running it the majority because he was working. So I was dealing with the contractors and dealing with the purchases and all these different things. What I found in doing that though is that even though I loved it, I loved transforming these properties and having happy new homeowners. The downside of that for me as a female, what I found was that a lot of people were very sexist. The contractors were sexist. A lot of people, wanted to deal with the male at that time. And me running the business full-time myself, the lesson learned there was you got to teach people how to treat you in business and in life, right? So I had to let these people know, these contractors and everyone else, I'm the one in charge. You got to answer to me. You're dealing with me. So that was a good life lesson to carry with you always. You got to stand up you got to be confident in your business and confident in whatever you're doing. You've gotten the training, have faith that you know enough. You don't have to have all the answers, but to move forward, you have to get that respect. You have to be respected in your industry and let people know who you are. So that business was going really well until 2008. Now, in 2008, if you don't know, the recession hit. And Trey and I had multiple properties that we had purchased. Many were on the market to be sold, and we couldn't sell them. There was a recession. So we had our own personal mortgage that we were paying for, as well as all these investment properties that we were paying for. And that started to take its toll on us. So we decided we didn't decide. We basically didn't have a choice. We took a loss with the sale on a lot of those properties because at that point, after so many months and months of just paying mortgages on houses that are beautifully rehabbed but you can't sell, we got to the point where we said enough of that business. We were just burnt out. So thank God we were able to sell our properties even at a loss, but we got out of that business. And so it was time for me to move into the next thing. So at that point, I'm saying, what am I going to do next? And I don't know what brought this about. I mean, probably God. God said, listen, do this next. But you remember I had that Rice Krispie Treats business when I was like 8 years old. I still loved making Krispie Treats. Like that was the thing I was always making constantly. I would go to holiday parties and they would say, bring a dessert. And that would be the thing I would make, So all my friends knew that I'm going to be making Rice Krispie Treats. That's what I'm going to be bringing. That's what I'm always eating. That's my favorite snack. And something said to me at that point after our real estate investing business, you know what? Why don't you make a business out of this? Rice Krispie Treats. So I did. So I decided to make the thing that I loved and I started selling it. If you have a passion for something, there is a reason God blessed you with that passion. It's so you can use it. It's so you can bring it into the world somehow so others can enjoy it through you. So I started making Rice Krispie Treats and I started testing formulas because I couldn't just take the Kellogg's or marshmallow recipe, had to make it my own. So I started testing different formulas for marshmallow because my husband and I don't eat pork and most marshmallows made with a pork gelatin. So I said, you know what? I want to get rid of that gelatin and I also want to make it my own and I want to make it extra special and I want to make it something that people just can't get easily on their own. So I started testing marshmallow recipes. I started adding unique toppings to Krispie Treats. I tested different cereals. I tested all these different tests that I was doing in my home kitchen, trying to come up with a formula that would work for me and make it original to me. Also something that would make it shelf stable, right? Because I'm going to be selling it out in the world and it needed to last for a while. So I was putting my unique touch on it. I had friends testing it for me and trying it out to see what they thought. I went through a lot of different formulations. I tested packaging. I tested labels. Nigel, my son, was just a baby, and I remember having him in my pouch on my belly at the stove as I was cooking. Poor baby probably got burnt. Sorry, Nigel. But I had to do what I had to do. So I was working with the baby and the little papoose and testing out all of these recipes. I also brought my mom in. She was retired, so she was able to come in and help me in my home kitchen. She was in the kitchen. She would do all the dishes. I did tons of dishes as I'm testing all this stuff and making all this product. Trey would get off of work and he would come in and he would help me with packaging product and labeling the product. And once I had that formula together and I was ready to package it and all that stuff, then I would take it to farmers markets. So I would test it out on the public to see what they thought. And farmers markets became one of the sole ways that we sold the product for a long time. So it was a real family affair and I loved it. I was like, if I can do this all day, every day, eat my favorite treat, work with my family, and make money, this is the dream, right? So we were selling at farmers markets, and people were really responding to it. They loved the product. But eventually, after some time, honestly, for the farmers markets, I was doing these. A lot of them were I was doing by myself, and I would go to 7 farmers markets a week. So that was almost every day. Some days it was 2 farmers markets in a day. So all day it was, it was make product, package product, box it up, take it to the market with all the setup material, tents, tables, all this stuff, sell it, sometimes go to a second market, sell it again, come back, buy product, make it, do it all over again. So this went on, honestly, for some years. It was a lot of work, okay? So eventually I'm like, okay, we have to expand this. I'm ready to move on and do something to get the product out to the masses. So we started wholesale. We started a wholesale business with the product. And I moved into a production kitchen. So I leased a production kitchen, hired staff, taught them and trained them how to make the product, and started selling it to stores. So I sold to Whole Foods Market and Harris Teeter and a lot of specialty food grocery stores. We were really growing fast. The business was really growing fast. So now I'm 7 or so years in, and I found that because we were growing so fast, I was always working. And it wasn't the work that I wanted to do. It wasn't the freedom that I desired. We get into business because we want freedom. We want to control our time. And it doesn't mean that we're not going to be working, but we want to have more control of our time, right? So I felt that I was losing that. I was losing that because we were just always in motion. I was always in motion, as well as the staff. That's why you go into business, right? So you can do what you want, have freedoms that you can't have working for someone else. So that's what I felt like I was losing. Granted, I had wonderful employees, had lots of employees handling the production of the product, but I was handling everything else. The bookkeeping, the legal stuff, the payroll, marketing, sales, everything. I would leave my production kitchen and go home to work the rest of the day at home on the business. I was working around the clock. I wasn't spending time with my family like I wanted. They would be with me a lot of times at my production kitchen, but I wasn't mentally there with them. It just wasn't fun at a point for me. Then I got the opportunity to move into a larger retail space inside of a casino. So there was a casino coming to town. It was new to the city. We hadn't had one here before. It was a new opportunity. So that was very exciting. So while all this other stuff was going on that I just named, now I'm thrust into this huge project that required even more resources. Mentally, financially. So for an entire year, I'm now in meetings with architects, with investors, with food suppliers, with casino owners, talking to them to see how they've, built their business inside of their casinos. I'm talking to licensing people. I'm interviewing and hiring and training our new staff. We had a lot of staff there. And it was all exciting, but it was very costly. It was a very costly project. So we went through the process of getting investment money for it. And that was a long process. In the end of that, though, I was approved for big investment money and I turned it down. That's a whole episode in and of itself. But the terms of this investment, it just wasn't what I wanted. And just taking on that investment money just didn't sit right in my soul. I honestly felt God was talking to me and just saying to me, turn this down. Don't take this on. Now, let me mention too that my husband had left his job to come help me run this casino restaurant business. So he wasn't too happy about me turning down this investment money because that meant we were going to have to finance it all on our own, credit cards, saving, our investment money, our personal investments. Now the casino provided a lot, but we put a lot of money into it ourselves, our own money. Because, in the back of my head, one thing about investment money, about working with an investor, is now you're obligated to produce for someone else. Now, what does that sound like? It sounds like a job. An investor is like having an employer. Now, I'm forever grateful to the investors who had faith enough in me to offer their money to me for this project. But my gut, which I think is God talking to me, said it was the wrong move. And this is why it's so important to have a solid reason for being a business owner. Every entrepreneur that I know has a similar reason, and part of that is to own your own time, right? Meaning not having to answer to anyone on what you do with your time. Of course, you have your customers and your clients, and you have to deliver in a smart, timely way to be successful as a business owner, but you are in control of when. And working with an investor made me feel like I was going to be losing that control. Anywho, so the hubby and I, we scrapped together our pennies, which had to be a lot of pennies for this project. Okay, a lot. And we opened up my dessert cafe inside of this new casino. And guess what? After a year of planning, all of our money, sleepless nights, having to hire my actual mother to be a nanny to our kids because the hubby and I were working 24/7, barely ever seeing the kids. After all this, I had to shut down the restaurant. I had this big, beautiful dessert cafe restaurant in this casino. Had spent a year putting it together. Kind of had my hopes and dreams on it being successful, and I had to shut it down. All right, I know you want to know why, and I bet you really want to know how I consider what I do now, being a full-time YouTuber and content creator, is the most success I've had in any business I've ever owned. But you're gonna have to wait until the next episode when I promise I'll break all that down for you. So until then, thanks for tuning in. I'll see you back here building online businesses, one family at a time.